So, hey, little behind the scenes stuff for you. This was supposed to be a little 3-minute escapade, press record and talk into the thing. And in the time I've been dicking around setting up the camera, I managed to drink the whole of my coffee, so I've got like 2 swigs left. It sucks. But anyway, hello. Today is, it's Monday, 7th of December 2020. This is day 260 of lockdown for me. Yeah, for us, collectively in the house, it's been interesting. And I figured it was long overdue that I kind of got back into the habit of doing this. It's good for my brain to talk to myself for a period of time and rant things out and all the other things, and to just kind of say hi, check in with you guys and see what's up. Side note, whenever somebody says, hey internet, YouTube people, what is up, that instantly makes my sphincter clench. It's really unnatural and weird. I don't know, I can't be the only person who thinks that. So, I'm alive. We are both doing pretty well. We're healthy. We've fortunately not had any kind of... we've thus far managed to avoid the plague. We've been very, very lucky in that regard, which has been great. There's been some writing going on, I think. We've had, recently, Pip and I have both kind of written 2 stories for various things. The one, was... we each did a short little thing for the Sinister Horror Company Advent Calendar, which I'll put in the link in the doobly-doo. The other cool thing that has happened is my story, A Fish Doesn't Know, went out in the Wicked Library a couple of months back, and I'm absolutely thrilled with how it turned out. Erica Sanderson did the reading. She's absolutely fabulous and just kicks the story right in the balls, and then the story kind of turns around, gets really angry, and then kicks you right in the feels, and it works. Everything about it worked. Absolutely stoked with how that turned out. I'll put the link in the description as well. It's a free story. You can check it out right now. It'll get you in that kind of cathartic thing to say. The way I'm pitching it at the moment is basically, if you got to phone your family and say no to things for Christmas, just dial into this story, give it an hour, 40 minutes, whatever it is, and then make the phone call once you get to the end of the story. That'll sort you out properly. You'll be ready to say no to a lot of stuff by the time you get to the end of that, so you're welcome. Other than that, we have lifted the embargo on mince pies this year early. We're not quite going to the extreme that we have in years past, which has been great. In the last, I think since the last video I put up was like on day 20 or day 30 or something, specifically for these. God, in that time, both of us have learned how to bake from scratch pretty much, which has been good fun. We make all our own alcohol, which is also fantastic. Pip's made a couple of really awesome batches of wine. Ginger beer is pretty much our go-to at the moment, which is cool. We made a badass batch of cider over which we it was pumpkin spice cider, which we drank over Halloween in buckets. It was amazing. Totally recommend it. It's not hard to do. It costs, God, your setup fee on a brewing kit or a whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be the kind of buy one for your dad brewing kit that you see always advertised. But basically you get a brewing bucket. You get some bottles, of course. Plastic are fine. We started off using kind of old gin bottles because I drank a lot of gin in the opening of lockdown. And yeah, so it's a brew bucket, some yeast. You can make it straight out of like chopped ginger. You can make worts. That's W-O-R-T, not W-A-R-T. Totally different situation, and you need tablets for that, or maybe a topical cream to get rid of warts. I'm not a doctor, don't quote me, but go talk to your own specialist and pay your own fees on that shit. I know nothing. But greatly recommend it. It's really, really easy to do, and it's a lot of fun. Super a lot of fun. We've had some wonderful evenings where Friday night we've basically put all the stuff out, and after putting a batch through, and we'd spend kind of Friday evening racking up the bottles and just kind of getting everything sorted and bottling a batch and getting unceremoniously rat-assed on the results, which has been quite cool. Trying to think what else has been on the agenda. We wrote a couple of Christmas stories for a submission for a thing that we're quietly just crossing our fingers and hoping the best for. It'll be really cool if it comes through for us, but the truth is I think there's like 800 submissions, which is an awesome turnaround for anything. Like, that is a really cool interest for any product, any anthology. So fingers crossed. We both wrote fun stories for that. We have had both of our Patreons on pause since I think it was like March, while I've been kind of processing a bunch of stuff and kind of getting my life back together. God dang, I'm gonna take a swig of this while I think a little. This year, I think for everybody, and I know it's not just me, because if you are listening to this will probably be your case as well. We shed a lot of people this year. Like, there has been a serious kind of purging of stupid. Like that kind of joke about there's an app that'll tell you who of your family and friends are racist. It's called Facebook. It's been terror and tears and frustration and everything all throughout this year. I don't even have words for it anymore. It feels like stuff's moving ahead, although kind of maybe. I think we've still got to wade through a river of shit before we get to the far side of all of the crazy. But that said, kind of, it has been taxing. It's been really, really taxing, and there've been a lot of sleepless nights over this stuff. At present, I've got a couple of projects on the side, on the go. I've got the usual editing that I'm working on. Got back onto that, which has been good. I'm quibbling with the idea of doing this story a week challenge. I'll put a link to the article that triggered me thinking about it, and the podcast, and the podcast episode. I think it was of the This Is Horror podcast. I was talking to Sarah Reed, who's a fabulous writer and has won a Stoker recently and done some amazing stuff. And apparently has a magnetic relationship with spiders, which is an interesting one to have. Anyway, she was talking on their podcast about doing a story a week challenge, which was directly quoted from, I think it was Ray Bradbury, that basically you write a story, a short story every week for 52 weeks, which is a year, and it's impossible for you to write a bad, like, if you do that, you can't write, they can't all be bad. It's basically the thing. It's like, you can work through practice and all that other stuff. So I'm still formulating how I'm going to go about this, or whatever the other stuff is that I'm going to do with it. But I love the idea, and just taking an entire run of, like, taking a few pages in a notebook and just saying, okay, I'll do what I do for when we do our bite-sized horror collections. I'm going to do this, I'm going to load up that, and what I normally do is I just take an entire notebook and just number ideas. So I'll go, an elf with an uncontrollable erection, idea 1. Idea 2, 2 elves with uncontrollable erections. And I just get progressively more ridiculous, and by the end of it, I'll sit there and I'll have 200, 300 ideas that I can just sift in, combine, and I'll just write them. It's a really fun way to kind of collect your thoughts up and to see what's actually going in the back of your brain. Also, anytime I get stumped, I just go back to these books. I reach for it around here, but I think it's in the other room. And that's a really, really cool way to get unstuck. That's pretty much the headlines, I think. I've got a couple of things on inbound in the next couple of weeks, which I'm preparing for like a mad thing. Really, really excited to kind of move along in my world. Dang, we've watched a lot of horror movies. Over this last weekend, I think we binged our way through about 4 or 5 dismal Krampus movies of varying degree. The one of all of them that actually was a standout, really like a fun short film, it was on Prime, I think it was called Night of the Krampus. It was 26 minutes and it kicked the pants out of all of the other ones that we watched. It was completely low budget, indie made short film about what we perceive to be a pair of ghost hunters, supernatural people, a guy and a girl. I think he is apparently cursed to hang out in the graveyard for all eternity and occasionally gets a pass to leave to go on missions, and they get into a fist fight with Krampus, it was totally fun and entertaining and engaging, and if you want something a little different, go check that out. Other stuff that I've been doing for various projects that I'm just preparing to put together. I've been watching lots of things about cults and listening to as much as I could in that regard. I have been researching Nexium. It's really obnoxious, the spelling. Most people know it from, I think there's a show that's just been released called The Vow, which is a limited series about how the cult grew. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't been able to find it or pay for it yet. But it's on my shortlist. Basically, everybody knows it from the girl from Smallville, the cute blonde. The cute blonde from Smallville was involved in this and is apparently in prison at the moment. And I'm to understand that the cult leader himself has been sentenced to something like 120 years in prison. Which is some doing, you know? You're going to have to do a lot of yoga to live that long. So, on a lighter side, there is a mockumentary on Prime called Cult. That's all I got as far as kind of explaining it goes, but it was just a really, really fun thing. I think it was playing on specifically the Heaven's Gate cult. It was, if that was set in the UK, and there was a child born into the cult. And it was kind of, it was disarmingly honest and a few hundred other things. I'll see if I can link to it. I don't think they've got a website, but I reached out to the guy, the writer-director on Twitter, and he was totally thrilled that we'd enjoyed it, and we had. It was a really nice little breath of fresh air. Another weird thing that I've watched recently that I wasn't completely aware of was The Source Family, also on Prime, and that's kind of a 2.5-hour documentary about a cult, of course. They had a father, you know, the granddaddy guy who has the beard and looks like Jesus, if kind of Jesus had kind of gone a little grey. It's hyper kind of sex focused, hyper family focused. Some really fun stuff was early in the days of the cult, everybody would go, they all went down to the, oh god, I'm trying to think what the American equivalent of it is. It's the name-changing office, and all changed their names to, I don't know, insert first name here, Sunshine, second name The, and last name Aquarian. So, and a lot of them have kept the names, which is really quite cool. So there was definitely some kind of effy bad, dodgy stuff going on in the cult, but if there was kind of a nice showcase of how lost people can find their way to be together and to find meaning as a community, that was also that side of it, because the reason people end up in these situations isn't necessarily, we all want to be loved, we all want to be desired, we all want community and people that we care about around us. That is the primary mode of human interaction. That's what drives us. And that's how people end up in cults. Like, when they go when cults are out kind of looking for new members, they hang around places like bus stations and things like that, just to... Because generally when people are at a bus station, if someone's landed from a Greyhound after 16 hours from the other side of the country, they're there because they didn't have money for a flight, and they haven't got somebody to meet them, and they don't have a forward plan. They just got on the nearest piece of transport to get away from wherever it is that they're getting away from. And people, all of us, want a home. And yeah, that's how cults take root. Even the leaders want to feel special. They want to feel loved. And generally it's a narcissist and an abuser and all of that other crazy stuff I'm not going to get into, but that is the core of all human interaction, and that's how we end up in the trouble we end up in. Yeah, so nice light-hearted stuff. This is, of course, in aid of a of a project that I've been working on in the background for some years now. I'm changing the title backwards and forwards as I go. I'm not going to talk about what it's called, but I've got about 50k written towards it, and did this during a NaNoWriMo some years back. But just due to, with everything that's been going on, I've been thinking a little more critically about my writing, and looking at it through a filter of how can I deepen this. And at every point, those questions are bringing more and more interesting kind of answers to my fiction and to my writing, and I'm becoming more on purpose. Everything is becoming more intentional in terms of my prose. I cut a lot less out. I cut a lot more out than I was ever capable of doing before, and I do it faster, which is also fantastic, because I don't feel like I'm cheating my future self. I feel like the choices I'm making are precision choices, which is really cool. And with this cult book, those choices have brought me to a number of conclusions. The main one of which is I'm gender flipping the main character. Originally it was Tim. I don't know why it was Tim, or rather I do know why it was Tim. I just thought, what's the most pathetic name I can come up with that would be incongruous with a cult leader? So I named him Tim. I think there's some Monty Python echoes in there at the time. I'm terrible with names. Generally when I name characters, I just throw down the first name. It's normally Billy. I don't know why. But they generally get a stupid name to start with, and then as I'm about a third, halfway through, then I kind of learned who the character is and I know them a little bit better, and then I rename them and fine-tune things accordingly to just bring that out. Yeah, I'm going to cut it there because this has gone on like at least 12 minutes longer than I planned to. But it's been fantastic talking to you guys again. I'm going to make a point of doing this a little more frequently. And take care of yourselves. Have a fabulous holiday season. Wear a mask. Stay home. Jesus. Like, if there was ever a cool time to avoid all the bullshit that makes Christmases difficult and unpleasant, this is the year, like you can totally do that. So, stay home. Drink in your underwear and watch crap on TV and just enjoy it. Have a good time. Like, after this year, I think everybody deserves to be able to just rest. And I realize that that's a very, very fortunate position that I find myself in, to be able to just say that. But if you can, take the time for you and just heal this. There is some more stuff coming before we're out the far side of this, but just breathe. We're gonna be fine. We just gotta weather the storm and move through. That's it. You guys have a fantabulous time. If you want to reach out and say hi or whichever, my Twitter handle is Mike Pilgrim. That's MYK Pilgrim, at MYK Pilgrim. The website, as ever, is mikepilgrim.com. That's mykpilgrim.com. And I've got books. There's all kinds of cool shit. We actually, if you're feeling rather festive, we've got a fantabulous book that we put out 2 years back called Bloody Stockings. It's got all kinds of bad verts, and it's tasteless, and it talks about, oh god, I think there's 100% vegan semen. I mean 100% vegan eggnog, which is mostly semen, so I suppose that's vegan, depending on kind of what your preferences are into. All kinds of terrible art and things like that, and Pip and I had a real chuckle putting it together. And yeah, I'm gonna go. So you guys have a fabulous day, and I'll see you soon. Button. Turn the button.